Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here.
Today we're going to be bringing you a preview of Burncycle. And you might be asking, why a preview? Isn't that a thing you usually do with Kickstarter products?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. We have an amazing gameplay coming out, and this is supposed to give you a segment, a taste of what is installed here. If you don't want to watch a full 2-hour gameplay with myself, you, and Alex from Boardgame Co. diving into one of the scenarios, this will give you that front-loaded, that sneak peek, right?
Yeah.
And along with that, all of this is actually available. Nothing is Kickstarter exclusive. Chip3 Games has a real stringent policy about that. And so if you do want to order this, this is available to you. This is not a sponsored video. I have no financial relationship with Chip3 Games at all. I don't even like some of their games much. I like most of their games to some degree. Yeah, that was a strong statement.
You like all of them.
I do. I just don't play some of their games.
You're not able to play all of them.
They're impossible to play. Burncycle, why should you be invested in Burncycle? Why should you watch this video? Well, first and foremost, Burncycle is going to be a cooperative stealth dungeon crawl where you're sequencing a lot of programming, diving into various different missions across various different scenarios and levels with changing challenge levels and changing objectives to accomplish a lot of different things. Sometimes it's grab the package, make it out the exit door, shut down the computers, hack the terminal, explore the entire foundation, take out the one enemy. Any of your stealth type of tropes you could think of, Burncycle is going to be playing with that mechanic. Now, the reason why you should be excited and invested in this is because it's coming from Chip3 Games. Insane production quality, highly accessible. I would argue more accessible than any of their other titles, with the caveat...
Highly accessible compared to titles of the same range.
With the caveat that, well, I'm not even counting their lockpicking one.
Yeah, I meant Too Many Bones and Cloudspire.
Well, and Hoplomachus may be more accessible depending on how you access it. That's the question, right? That being said, Devin, what are a few reasons why people should stop watching the video immediately? That would just make this like easy, quick, not a game for me.
So if you want to stop watching the video immediately, these are brass mag miniatures that are not in the base game, but that you can purchase. So this is going to be an additional expense that I promise you, you're going to want, because I don't have them.
You'll spend too much money on this, is what you're saying.
I really, really want them now. So yes, this is going to be a high cost luxury board game experience, even at just the base game level. And that's standard for Chip Theory and for their titles. So if you're familiar with them and you like them, that's probably not going to be a barrier to entry for you. But if you are someone who maybe does not think frequently about maybe dropping $100 or $150 on a board game, this is something to be wary of before getting too excited about it, because it is a deluxe experience from a publisher that does not cut corners when it comes to making their games as gorgeous to interact with and to see as possible. So that is going to be a hurdle. And then also, it's a cooperative game. So if you don't like solo games and you don't want to play by yourself, but you also aren't as much of a fan of having to share the load of the actions in a game with a bunch of other people rather than competing against them, you're not fighting the other players. You're going against the corporations and against the floor plans of that corporation and the objectives that you have to do. So the style of game and the cost of entry might be two things that make you a little queasy.
So, you're still here, which means you're at least intrigued in Burncycle. Let's start breaking down what this game is. So the core premise of Burncycle is you're going to be a sequence of robots that are warring against the artificial intelligence or the faction's mandate that they've been given, right? You have enough consciousness to understand that you should have agency and a corporation needs to crumble, but you also still kind of want to follow your Burncycle. If you take actions in relation to what they've programmed you to do, you'll get bonuses, you'll get better effects, and you'll have stronger abilities. But what they've programmed you to do doesn't always match up with what you need to do to accomplish the mission, or what you should do as the best tactical approach. That's the crux, that's the balance of this. You're gonna actually have two different scenes in the game. The first scene is going to be the dungeon crawl environment here, and this will change from corporation to corporation.
And from floor to floor.
And from floor to floor. So corporations will be one of the set of modules you have, and then the floors or the scenarios will then start changing what is the environment is built in, what your mission objective is, and how those floors level up as you move up from one floor to a second to a third.
And then the second side of that is going to be this network map over here. So as we are robots going against humans in these corporations, we operate in the physical space with our miniatures or with ourselves. And then we operate in the digital space using our IP addresses to move around on the network. And that is visualized here on the mat. And you will be there as robots using your IP, and then the network CEO will be there using their pings. And so it is this kind of cat and mouse game on these inward facing layers, these concentric circles, and you're going to go to those places once again based off the burn cycle. The burn cycle will relate to your physical actions in the world and your digital actions on the network. And so it's a distinct piece of the puzzle that's separate from here, but it can also have ramifications, especially if you're using network cards and other actions that can actually help increase your power, decrease your threat, and interact with the board in an indirect way once you're able to find that thread that connects those two.
Now, we mentioned multiple floors, and the clarification for that is really the length or duration of the gameplay you're doing. A single floor mission will be still moderate to challenging, with the caveat that you will only have one core setup. As you get later on in the round, you may need to go up to floor 2 or floor 3, which will require a reset on the board and have another dungeon that you're re-exploring. That's really the framework that it fits into. Now, us as characters will be taking control of these little robots, and every robot is going to have their own little module card. These cards will have special abilities unique for each one, along with general stats that you get, and they'll slot into your dashboard here. These dashboards will have areas where you can upgrade certain special and standard abilities based off the character that you've chosen, and every character also functions as your AI commander.
Which then slots over here. So as he mentioned, you can be an agent or you can be a command module. All players...
You can be an agent. Every robot can be an agent.
True.
A command module.
Yes.
Myself, personally...
Can only have an agent.
They haven't allowed me to be a command module
They have not allowed you yet.
Although...
Would you like to be just passively controlled by other people at the table?
I've thought about it. I have thought about it. Go watch the gameplay if you want to see which one of us was passively controlled by other people at the table. Dump truck, for those of you that have already watched it.
Yes. And if you are wondering... Players function as agents, but then all of us using the burn cycle actions can activate and control the command module for certain pieces. So on your reference card that you have here, anything that says your agent plus the CM or your agent or the CM allows you to do those actions with either your robot or the command module. And so you're able to split up actions and take control of multiple bots in one go.
And those actions over here on the burn cycle are going to be based off of a series of colored chips or icon-based chips. Those chips will tie to certain abilities that you can take, and you can always take any of the abilities, but like Devin said, you'll get a more powerful effect if you follow the hierarchy here. Now, the cool thing is at the end of your turn, you're going to be flipping and degrading some of these chips, meaning that you'll be able to swap them out and control for what you're going to be programming as the game progresses. Moving over to the digital module, this starts to play an even more important role.
Yes, because the same actions that you do here relate to where you move and what nodes you land on, or hubs, depending on what you reach first.
Imagine Pac-Man kind of sprinting around a board, pinging and taking
I mean,
out.
It really is like concentric Pac-Man.
100%.
And so then you have layers here, but as you can see, there are access points that allow you to drop outward or inward depending on where and what nodes you land on, which can be useful because each layer at their hubs have an ability that you can resolve. This one allows you to increase your value of your network die. This one allows you to decrease threat. This one allows you to gain power. And if you ever make it to the core, you do all three and bounce back out to your access points. So once again, the burn cycle is very important to optimize actions and also to navigate the network in a way that can be beneficial to you and either evade, boot out, or deal with the pings that are in there.
Yeah, it's this big balancing act of two different modules working back and forth together. And as a cooperative game, you spend a lot of time reading into and feeding into other players' turns. What you do on your actions, the choices you make will have consequences or positive effects and ramifications for other players. And because you're both interacting with the same module over here with where you land and the burn cycle over here, sometimes you'll take disadvantages for yourself to help someone else 2 or 3 turns down the road. And more often than not, you'll do what's most optimized for you, and other people kind of have to play and work around that.
Yeah.
Now, if you've made it to this point, I assume you're interested. Potentially over scrolling on the Chip Theory website to do the pre-order for the print that's now coming to the States. Hold up for 1 second, though. Devin, this is a game that I think people should get.
Oh.
If they have the money for it.
Oh.
I think it is lovely.
Okay.
I think it is super compelling. And if they like cooperative games or they like solo games, I think this does it incredibly well.
Okay.
Let's now spend the next 3 minutes telling them every reason we can think of
To not
buy this game.
Okay, so let me discuss the ways in which this is going to be a hurdle for you as a player and as a game group. Number one is, unless you do a 1 floor scenario, if you do a 2 or a 3 floor scenario,
Clear it all.
you have to clear the whole board. Like once you complete the objectives for it, you have to wipe all of these out. Some of them will remain on the 2nd or even the 3rd floor, and you have to follow the floor plan book and completely rebuild it. Now, once you understand the game and you have your own organizational system, you might be able to winnow that down to a lower amount of time, but a full reset in between each floor is a lot.
I avoid playing late floor scenarios, and I just play more difficult base floor scenarios because that setup time scares me away.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, just beyond that, this is already an 1.5 to a 2 hour long gameplay, even with a base floor scenario. You're probably talking, at least for the first few experiences,
3,
and depending
4,
on your
5
player count, 3, 4, 5 hours comfortably. Now, that could be a harrowing adventure, or it could be kind of a muddled slide down a hill.
Yeah. And also, it definitely depends on how you end up combining the captain or the agents with your command module, with your scenario that you're doing. But sometimes, dependent on how the board evolves, because this is a game that requires stealthy movement and layered decision making, there are times in which 1 or more bots or agents just may not have the right tools to work within the most effective form of what needs to be done. For example, in the game that we played, you and Alex had a much more physical presence and were able to kind of push end game, and I was kind of useless.
We thought that from the beginning.
I'm used to being that.
Yeah.
But there really is a scenario in which one player, for the efficiency of the whole team, might need to take a full round of dead turns in order to not change the game state and allow other players to do something that's the most optimal, not just for each player, but for the team as a whole.
And most dungeon crawl cooperative games solve that by giving you multiple characters to play. Zombicide, for instance, is optimized with you playing at least 2 characters in your game. This is a little bit too complicated to effectively or efficiently run multiple characters, which means those dead times will really be felt, and there's not a good solution to it.
And if you're doing a 2 or a 3 floor scenario, much longer.
That's a long time. Along with that, I do not recommend playing this game at 4, unless you just love that cooperative experience. There's a lot of downtime and a lot of lag. I think 3 was strong with the right player group. I think 2 is my favorite. And then ask yourself the realistic question, which I don't ask myself often enough. Do you play solo games? Because I love to think I do.
I love to think I do.
I do.
No, but I do agree
that
with
I will
you.
get this to the table solo.
I agree with you on the note of
It's just hard to do.
Of player count, which ties into what you're saying about solo. I think that from my experience with Chip Theory games, I think that they are most frequently, across all of the ones I've played, best at 2 players.
Yep.
I think
this will be the case.
Too
as
many
well.
bones, because you can also control 2 people.
You lose the nuance of collaborative play and the Burncycle talk, like the stealth mode talk. If you play it by yourself, you just lose something.
But 3 and 4 can extend the process, and you can have more of those dead turns. And if you have fewer bots, then each one of them needs to be more active. And so we had 3 bots, 4 if you include the command module, and I didn't need to do as much. And I mean, the command module may stay in the same spot for the whole game, or close to it.
I think my hardest push against this game, for those of you that are here that really need a reason not to buy this, this is going to be an expensive game. There is going to be new modules and new expansions coming out. It's one of the things Chip Theory does when they want to support an IP, and I think this has been successful enough that they're going to support it, especially now that it's arriving to people and people are enjoying it. However, this is also a weird theme. It's a weird game experience, and it's a weird play style. And if your group's not ready for new and weird, Chip Theory's pushing the curtain. But if your group just wants massive darkness, run into the dungeon, slaughter orcs, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a harder time getting them to love this. So unless you know for sure they're going to love this, don't buy it. Instead, send this video to your friend, tell them to subscribe to Quackalope and Devin Talks Tabletop, link down below. He's going to get a hamster one of these days. And see if they're into it. Because if they are, at this point, there's no question you should pick up this game. As long as you have the budget for it. If you watch this point and you're excited, you're right. It's good. It's real good.
I mean, guys,
and this is
let's talk about...
I mean, wait. Oh! Can I just get a round of applause?
So let's talk about this. I would say that Burncycle, out of Too Many Bones, and it, like going back to what we said very briefly at the beginning in terms of accessibility, I think Burncycle could potentially be one of the games that satisfies what Chip Theory games fans love about their titles, while also being as close to approachable for people that aren't as deep into those as possible. I think it hits this middle point.
I desperately, and I should make a video on this, Too Many Bones for me would immediately be better if you gave me brass mag minis and a dungeon environment. I want to field the battle on. I hate the battle system.
I dislike the abstract map.
I love this.
Yeah. So I think that this has the potential to hit some high notes for fans of Too Many Bones or Cloudspire, but I also think that it has the ability to be one of the jumping off points for people that haven't dived headfirst into Chip Theory titles before. And because I think it is, it has a learn to play book and it has a rules reference and it's 80 pages of rules between both booklets.
Chip Theory does not make the best,
but it's the most accessible out of the ones I've read.
I understand. I think they are very careful with their rule books. Their rule books don't always translate to my brain well.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that there are certain rule books that do well for my brain and some that don't.
They feel very purposeful.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I can give you on that. But to end on the high note that you were guiding us towards, I think that when you can get
just lower.
When you
there was definitely an ending to the video already and you were like, yeah, but let's just drag it on like the game does for a little bit. You got it.
I could do this?
You got this, buddy.
Okay. So when that one moment, that was when you were going to cut it?
You got this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's really fun. And I think that there's the opportunity for a little bit of sandbox creativity.
I can see that.
When you created the process of what you did during that gameplay, I had never thought about that.
It was so fun.
That was a blast to watch.
It was a great win.
And it made me not mind as much that I wasn't as fully active or participating in that particular core tension.
You all were arguing about the strategy.
And you were just like, guys, I got this.
Done.
So I think that was just fun to engage with. And also on the flip side of this, there are moments I've had where the ending has been down to the wire. Threat has been up almost to the point of failing, and we've needed 1 or 2 actions. The burn cycle is almost fully degraded. And you can get those moments where it's like so dramatic,
and then sometimes
it feels narratively good.
Then sometimes you get the moments where you go, oh, that was fun.
We've won.
But we just won.
Yeah.
Just wrap it up.
Yeah.
Pull the strings. Let go of the balloons.
I'm not following this analogy.
Adopt the hamster. We won.
Anyways, guys, that's Burncycle from Chip Theory Games.
Yeah.
We have enjoyed it, and it was a fun gameplay. I really had a good time with you and Alex. This is out, and as Jesse said, the way that Chip Theory works is none of it is Kickstarter exclusive, so everything's available. If you're interested and you have any more questions, let us know.
I'm pretty sure even though their seasonal promos, I'm pretty sure
even those are still available.
I'm pretty sure I bought their 2018 seasonal promo in 2020 when I was desperate and alone.
Yep.